Okay, thanks, and welcome everybody to this decision session for the Executive Member for Economy and Transport. I am Councillor Pete Kilbane, Executive Member for Economy and Transport. Anybody at all got declarations of interest that they need to make for any of the business in front of us today? No, me neither. I've got minutes from the 12th of September and the 19th of October, which I've read and agree are an accurate record. So I will sign those off. Thank you. And in public participation this morning, we have just one registered speaker. It's Mr. Andy DeGorn, speaking on item 6, the Transport Capital Programme. So, Mr. DeGorn, you have 3 minutes. Reece, do you want to? Fantastic. If you have 3 minutes, do you want a 30-second warning towards the end? Okay, do we have a spare?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, it's working now.
Okay, with microphone working, over to you.
Right. Firstly, I wish you all a refreshing rest of Christmas, gearing up for transformative change through the new transport strategy in 2024. I've resisted commenting on res parking permits, you're pleased to hear. However, I do urge you to find a way to save the Dial a Ride service, especially for blue badge holders who rely on it, such as for reaching St Sampson Square and those who can't afford to run a car or use taxis to get there. The capital programme, as I said, is, as always, demonstrates a breadth of projects and aspirations to tackle the challenges facing our transport network. I want to highlight just a few key Cinderella projects that could be making a big difference. Top of this list, which is quite topical today, is the Western Access to Millennium Bridge, with the 350,000 funds sat in council coffers for several years, yet still no design or contract for construction. Victim of CYC linear approach and other flood works, this essential
Not deliberate. We can go.
That's right. Carry on.
Keep going off if you the agenda.
Sabotage. This essential link is now flooded pretty well every winter, as was the case yesterday and this morning. Unlike Fordlands Road and Skeldergate, no temporary footbridge is provided, presenting families travelling to local schools with a choice of a muddy detour in Wellies, a much longer car trip via the A64 and Fulford Road, or 2 bus journeys via our congested city centre. It's not exactly a complicated project, but it urgently needs completing. Please can you commit to securing Environment Agency approved design by March and a contract to start work by summer of 2024. It was originally planned for 2023 and 2022. This also, the long planned replacement of manual flood warning signs with digital ones would be a quick win. In paragraph 27, it's welcome to see the Skeldergate Cycle Safety Scheme and Tower Street Pedestrian and ultimately a cycle crossing scheme that I approve now completed. Paragraph 37 is welcome too, as a missing link on the station to hospital via Scarborough Bridge cycle route, which opened in 2018, is now nearing completion. I also look forward to seeing a design and construction timetable for the Jubilee Terrace Riverside Path, for which the previous administration secured £1 million of active travel funding.
30 seconds.
However, sadly, the majority of active travel schemes on page 79 appear to be no nearer to delivery. Hospital Fields Road, University East-West Campus Link, City Centre North-South Cycle Route, City Centre Cycle Parking Improvements, Shipton Road. I hope the adoption of early next year of our LC WIP will help strengthen ambitious but realistic bids to Active Travel England and mayoral funds so we can build on all the groundwork of recent years and see these projects underway next year.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Mr. DeGorn, which will be noted. Okay, we move to the agenda item 4. It's the first of the reports. There's 2 reports before us today, and this is a decision report reviewing the decision on the parking permit emission levels for daily property permits and city parking waiver policies. So, Graham, you're going to take us through this report.
Good morning, everyone. So yeah, we've got 3 items on this parking report today. First 2 are fairly straightforward. One of which is to take the current city annual waiver that has no time limit down to 2 hours. And the second sort of less debatable one is the increase in use and availability of the daily property permit, formerly known as the builder's permit. The third item may require a little bit more discussion, but a little bit more discussion. There's 1 or 2 amendments around that as well. Is around the review of the low emission discounts on all parking permits based on the February 2023-24 budget that's been set, where the previous administration asked for a reduction in the low emission for the season tickets and the residence parking permits. So just taking the first 2 that mentioned beforehand. So the annual city waiver is currently used. We've got about 39 of those that are registered, mainly for the likes of window cleaners, anyone doing sort of a shorter term works around the city centre, primarily. Observations from civil enforcement officers and others, including network management that issues the waivers, are that we see a number of vehicles with these permits in that are there and just basically sitting there not doing anything for several hours. As a result, this is taking for quite valuable parking capacity for blue badge holders and the like, and obviously loading and unloading as well. So we propose that, so based on observations and given the types of businesses that are applying for waivers, that we reduce that down to 2 hours. So that's one of the recommendations in there. Secondly, as I mentioned before, the daily property permits, we've had a number of requests, complaints, issues from residents, property owners, indeed tradespeople, for a better access to the daily property permits. Based on civil enforcement officers' reviews and observations around all the residence parking zones, we feel that that can go ahead. So what we're proposing in this paper is we'll allow all property owners and residents as well as tradespeople to access the daily property permits, where up to 3 can be used per day per property. These can also be used in occupied properties, where at the moment it's only unoccupied properties. So I'd just like to propose a slight amendment to find it, paragraph 19, item 3, where it just says approve that residents as well as tradespeople will have access to this, to add in their property owners as well, take the accounts of landlords as well. So I'd just like to make that amendment if I may. So that's the first 2 items. Like me to go across the low emission one now as well?
Well, if you want to take those in the first, then I think so in discussions that so essentially what you're saying is that the 2-hour permit was being abused. So people had a annual parking waiver that they were using for leisure purposes as opposed to work purposes. Is that the suspicion?
That's a suspicion, yes. Obviously, we can't prove that, but the observations show that the cars are there, parts are there for longer than 3 to 4 hours easily, with the tools in situ, and they've just gone off, essentially. So the observations are that, yes, it is potentially being abused.
Okay. I mean, that's certainly a suspicion that's been reported to me by residents. So, yeah, happy to move that to 2 hours. And I suppose the compensation for reducing that annual parking waiver to 2, is that 2 hours in a particular zone or 2 hours in a particular? It's
2 hours at that particular spot. So if they move on to another area, then that 2 hours will then restart again.
All right.
It's on the same street.
You've
like
got a job somewhere else. So if the jobs that are 2 hours or less, they can use the annual waivers. But jobs that are going to take longer, such as working on somebody's house all day, we're going to allow, for the first time, we're going to allow the property owner to get a tradesperson's permit for the whole day, and they can get up to 3 of those. So you can have 3 different trades.
Yeah, so basically it comes from a physical book with the number of permits that's in there. So rather than just the tradespeople having to buy the things, or tradespeople having to use the residents' visitor vouchers if they indeed have them, this just allows the expansion of that. So residents can buy as many of the builders' permits as they want, but only for the specific purposes for tradespeople only. But increase that to 3 permits being used per property per day, but also non-occupied properties. Yeah.
Okay, and certainly for the tradespeople that I've been talking to, that has been a sticking point, I think, for them, and quite a lot of them were unaware that they could get the annual waiver as well. But you know, probably just as well, since how we're changing it now to a 2-hour limit. So basically, it will free up property owners to have people working on their houses with daily permits that they can pay for. So it simplifies it. Okay, yeah, no, very happy to see that change, and at the same time, we can remove any suspected abuse while still leaving that 2-hour window for people who are doing jobs with that leisure. Okay, no, that's great. When the time comes, I'm sure happy to approve that. Do you want to talk us through the emission?
Yeah, indeed. So a number of years now, we've had the traffic regulation order looking at the emissions policy based on the old vehicle bandings A, B, C, and D. Where at the moment, any vehicle that's producing at or below 120 grams of CO2 per kilometre qualifies as a discount, which is 50% reduction in whatever permit it's linked to, whether it's a residence permit, household, commercial, etc. In February 2023, this financial year, previous administration asked for this to be looked at and reduced. Didn't say what level it would be at, but only for the season ticket and household permits. Given the complexity of the permits that we have here in York, which are about 100 types of permits that we have, what we're saying in this report is actually where we have a low emission element in all the permits, that this applies to all the permits that have a discount element in there, for sake of confusion and such like as well. So what we're proposing in this essentially is a reduction based on the new vehicle emissions, which are any vehicles registered after April 2017, based on the emission levels of 0 and then 0 to 50, 0 to 75 and 0 to 100. And in this report, we're recommending that is 0 to 75 grams of CO2 per kilometre. The slight amendment in this as well is paragraph 34, where you have Roman numerals 1 to 4. We need to read those as paragraph 34, A, B, C, and D, where in paragraph 37, option C refers to paragraph 34, Roman numeral 3 in there. We're recommending that 0 to 75 grams is the recommended option. This will meet the budget setting. It will also ensure that there's no confusion with which permit has a discount, which one doesn't, which level it has. And then, yes, that's something we can take forward. Then finally, overall with these, it's just noting that items 1 and 3, so the annual permit and the low emission permit will have to have a traffic regulation order consultation process going through this. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Graham, and thank you very much for the report. Another minor amendment is that in paragraph 19, 1, I'm being asked to choose options A or B or C, I think, as outlined in paragraph 3014 is how.
Indeed, yeah.
C is the recommended option. Then I'm assuming that's one of the ones you want us to choose from. So, okay, I think this is quite an interesting issue, isn't it? Really. So, obviously, as cars become more efficient, then ResPark and the role that it plays in helping reduce emissions becomes less relevant. And actually, ResPark is primarily about space. It's about people having the space to park outside of their house, almost regardless of what the vehicle is that's parked there. And I think, that's always been the primary driver, I think, from talking to colleagues who are councillors for ResPark zones, is people being able to park near their house. So there is a temptation on that basis to actually go for option A, which is just removing the discount for low emission vehicles altogether. But I think, because I'm not sure if you're thinking of buying a car that's worth £35,000, I'm not sure how much of £130 parking permit factors into that decision-making process. So I'm not sure how much sort of being the discount that we give would encourage people to buy.
It's a debatable point, absolutely.
I think people are moving that way anyway, as the whole country sort of moves that way. However, I think to go straight to option A might be a little bit harsh on those who have been doing the right thing in terms of getting low emission vehicles. So, and given that option C does give us the savings that we need to make, because obviously we're all very conscious of having to make in-year and future year savings, I think we'll go with option C. Seems to be the sort of the midpoint, but I would say that the direction of travel on this is to remove discounts for low emission vehicles altogether, because eventually all of the vehicles are going to be low emission, we hope.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So yeah, no, happy with C. So just for clarity, then for Risa's sake, then in terms of the recommendations, for one, I'm choosing option C, which needs to be added to that paragraph, and I'm also happy to approve 2, 3, 4, and 5 within paragraph 19. Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thanks,
Pleasure.
Graham. Thanks
Okay.
for all the work that you've done on that. That's great. Moving on to agenda item number 5. This is the Transport Capital Programme. That's come before me for approval. So you're going to take us through this.
How's that? Okay, so the capital programme report has two purposes. It's partly to approve the budget of funding for various transport schemes, and partly to approve the details of the programme as set out in Annex B. The funding available for this financial year includes some new funding and funding carried over for last year. As set out in Annex A, the majority of this funding is from external grants, from the local transport plan grant, plus grants for individual schemes and major schemes. The details of the programme are set out in Annex B and cover public transport improvements, which are mainly funded through the bus service improvement plan grant, walking and cycling, a programme of safety schemes to address safety issues around the city, our active travel programme funded by the Active Travel Fund grant, and major schemes such as the Outer Ring Road and the station frontage, and various other schemes, including the EV charging and the grant funding for new electric buses. So what we're asking you to do is approve the programme and note that the programme itself includes a number of schemes that are in feasibility this year for implementation next year, and schemes that we are actually planning to implement this financial year, which includes some schemes that are already completed, such as the St George's Tower Street crossing and the Skeldergate cycle schemes, and some schemes that are on site or will be on site shortly, such as St Mary's Ramp and the Simbock Lane ZAR scheme. Do you have any questions or queries?
Great. No, maybe just a couple of pointers really, and thanks for the report. Thanks for all the work that you've done on this. And as you say, you know, the bulk of the funding being externally sourced, you know, from sorted outside the council is really important for us at the moment, given our financial situation that we have inherited. So yeah, no, that's great. The public speaker was asking about the access to Millennium Bridge. I guess that's quite topical given the current levels of flooding. Now, I am aware that this scheme has been on the books for has certainly been talked about for about 7 years. It was on the books for pretty much all of the last administration's time in office. Are we any closer to actually getting, so I can see there's a substantial sum of money is set aside for it in the budget. Are we getting any closer to starting to deliver on that scheme?
At the moment, the key issue there is the need for Environment Agency approval of our design, so obviously we are bound by the Environment Agency timescales in that one. So we are aiming to have design completed by the end of the financial year and implementation in summer next year.
Okay, so we're looking for summer next year. So we're at the design stage with the Environment Agency.
That's correct.
And have they got issues around losing some flood capacity?
I'm not aware of the details of that.
Okay, right, okay. All right, well, I'll pick that up outside of this meeting, because we do need to get that. I mean, it's just been sitting around for so long, that scheme, that we need to progress with it.
I'd just like to add there, Councillor Bentley, obviously we have been in discussion with the Environment Agency. Obviously, any works that occur near to the River Ouse can affect the floodplain, then they obviously raise concerns around flood storage capacity, and that is part and parcel of the discussion we're currently having with them.
Yeah, they'll have the same issues on the Riverside Path from Scarborough Bridge.
We will have to engage with them also on that,
yeah.
on that element of the scheme, yes.
Yeah, well, if there's anything I can do to help move that along, very happy to get involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as I say, you know, the bulk of the active travel schemes, which we have funding for, and the bus service improvement schemes, and anything that comes from the local cycling walking infrastructure plan. They need to be brought forward, I think, as part of an overhaul coherent plan for the whole city, really. So I think there's a little bit of holding the reins on some of these now, because they need to form part of that overhaul transport strategy that we hope to have developed by May next year. But clearly there's quite a lot in here that will help us deliver that, which is brilliant. Okay, so thank you very much. I am happy, if I can find the right page, to approve the capital budget, which is paragraph 11 of the report. So I'm happy to approve that programme, especially the schemes to be delivered in 23-24. Okay, thank you very much. I've had no urgent business brought before me. So with that note, I will bring this meeting to a close, and thank you all very much for the work that you do and your participation today. Thanks.
Okay.